Who is the best example of someone that you're not sure if they are a complete idiot or a genius? Carol Pilkington. I told her that I can't be doing with the wonder part of these trips, but she said it should be the icing on the cake. I've never liked wedding cake due to the amount of icing, but then imagine a wedding cake without it, just a dark, stodgy, horrible dry sponge. The icing covers up the mess, and that's how I feel about most of the wonders. They use them to get people to visit a place that you probably wouldn't think about visiting. Almost everything he says is actually pretty deep when you stop and think about it. He is a living shower thought. When he opens his mouth, you think he's an idiot. Then you start thinking about what he says, and suddenly it sounds a lot more profound. When he said something to effect about how everyone is worried about polar bears dying, is genius. I'm going to butcher it, but it was something like this. Everyone is worrying about polar bears dying, but look at cows. Cows taste good and everyone eats them, so there are loads of them. Start eating polar bear, and there will be loads of them. One of the funniest things I've ever heard was Carol saying that he was hesitant to eat frogs in China because he didn't want to love eating them and then get back to the UK and not be able to find frogs as delicious. When my old roommate threw out all of his socks and ordered new ones in bulk because he was tired of having to match them. I do this every few months. It's called the sockalypse. Every few months. God damn, you must burn through your socks with gay abandon. Lady Gaga. She has some wicked chops when she's playing the piano and sings like a champion. Then she wears meat dresses and turns up in an oversized egg. She was a singer for years without gaining popular success. There are a lot of people out there who can sing. Then she started wearing things like a wig shaped like a boar's head and created this crazy persona, and now she's a successful artist. Sounds to me like she's smart enough to adapt creatively. Lindsay Snider, the 33-year-old billionaire who inherited and runs the In-N-Out Burger franchise. In-N-Out is wildly popular in Southern California and some of the other Southwest states it has expanded into, but even though it has existed for as long as McDonald's and was founded just a few miles away, to date there are only about 300 stores. I can't decide if this is a genius move, and opening stores slowly has maintained the culture and quality that has made In-N-Out so successful, or if they are literally leaving billions of dollars on the table by not expanding into new areas that would literally eat it up. I believe they have a policy of not freezing their patties, so their locations all must be within a certain shipping distance of their patty making facilities in California and Texas. I read a book about this. Supposedly it's very deliberate. They don't open stores that they can't keep a very close eye on and make sure it's in good hands. I'm really overeating there at this point, personally, but the experience has been so far superior to any other fast food chain. Imo. They have never messed up an order for me. I have never seen any employee doing something stupid or rude. It's kind of amazing. They pay really well for the jobs as well. I have never seen any employee doing something stupid or rude. They pay really well for the jobs as well. Not just a coincidence. Terry A. Davis. Here's the deal. This guy wrote an entire operating system by himself from scratch. For those of you who don't understand the magnitude of that achievement, consider that it took several thousand to write the earlier Windows and probably tens of thousands for the newer ones. His is not nearly as full-featured, but it's still surprisingly robust and complete. However, this guy is completely nuts. The reason he made the operating system is because he believed God told him to. Hence the name of the project, Temple OS, featuring the programming language Holy See. The guy is a diagnosed schizophrenic. And yet, there are probably very few people out there who could do what he has done. Well then he's definitely not an idiot, just a genius dealing with a mental illness. The guy who used GameStop as a bank. Does anyone else use GameStop as a bank? I got really pissed off with the US bank because I kept overdrafting my account even though I opted out, and the same thing happened with my credit union when I got a debit card. Now whenever I get paid I go pre-order a whole shitload of games. Whenever I need money, I go to the nearest GameStop and ask for my money back on a game I don't want and make a withdrawal. The lines are shorter at GameStop than at the bank and I can trade in old games and have money go straight into my savings account. GameStops are just as prevalent as banks in my town, and I work in a mall, so it's even more convenient than running an errand to the bank or using an ATM and getting charged. The GameStop people are starting to catch on that I'm just moving my money around and only buying one pre-ordered game a year, if that, but there isn't shit they can do about it. The best part is, since I always pre-order every game coming out, I'm still guaranteed to get all the exclusive content, whether or not I'm sure I want a certain game. It's like they're rewarding me for banking with them. I can't decide if you're retarded or brilliant. Donald Trump, not saying in business but in politics. Delusional and disconnected right-wing buffoon, or diabolically evil left-wing infiltrator meant to ridicule the right-wing by being as comical as possible and still be considered as a candidate. Riff Raff. Definitely genius. I don't like to drive. Versace jeans in limousine. I could freestyle to a dolphin and a tambourine. Tommy Wiseau. Edit. He's the creator of The Room, the worst best movie ever created. All depending on whether or not he truly takes his work seriously. He's either a complete idiot for making such piece of shit, or is a genius for pulling off one of the most masterful trolls and displays of irony in history. Vermin Supreme, aka the guy who ran for president with a boot on his head. Vermin's presidential platform. Dental hygiene law. Flying monkey public safety assurance program. Time travel research funding. Yogi Berra. He says stuff like, you can observe a lot just by watching, and it's déjà vu all over again, and you're like, that's stupid. But then you're like, hey, that kind of makes sense, or that's pretty funny. If you see a fork in the road, take it. I think all of those Yogi Berra quotes aren't stupid, they are just his own brand of humor. In theory, there is no difference between theory and practice. But in practice, there is. My favorite is, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. Shia LaBeouf. At first watch of his motivational video I thought he was nuts. But after realizing he did it in front of a green screen, he's brilliant. The video was done for a performing arts class, where students wrote speeches for him to perform. The rest of them were very well written and acted, and the famous one was probably done by the kid, who forgot about the assignment until 5 minutes before class. There is a historical figure from my hometown that has presented this question for over 200 years. Lord Timothy Dexter. Dexter was born in Malden, Massachusetts. He had little schooling and worked as a farm laborer at the age of 8. When he was 16, he became an apprentice to a leather dresser. In 1769, he moved to Newburyport, Massachusetts. He married Elizabeth Frothingham, a rich widow, and bought a mansion. Some of his social contemporaries considered him unintelligent. Many of them gave him bad business advice to discredit him and make him lose his fortune. Bought continental currency when it was almost worthless. When the revolution ended, he was a rich man. He sold bed warmers to the West Indies. They turned out to be perfect as molasses ladles. Next he sold them mittens. They exported the mittens to Siberia. He sent gloves to the South Seas and ended up selling them to Portuguese sailors heading to China. He sold coal to Newcastle, one of the largest coal ports in the world. His ship happened to arrive just as a coal miners' strike was starting and was able to sell his coal for a profit. He sold stray cats to the Caribbean. Edit. His ships arrived during a rat infestation. He held a fake funeral for himself and caned his wife because she did not cry enough. He wrote a book, A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, a screed against the local aristocracy, but failed to include any punctuation. After complaints, in his next edition, he included all the missing punctuation in an addendum on the last page. Honestly, someday, Tim Burton needs to make a movie about him. To anyone who is interested in Czech culture, I cannot recommend enough the writings of Jaroslav Hasek. His story, The Good Soldier Svezhik, fits the mold of a complete imbecile who may actually be a total genius. However, the legends surrounding Hasek are even more interesting. He was an anarchist who was drafted into the Austro-Hungarian army and was captured by the Russians the same year. One time, he checked into a Prague hotel under a Russian-sounding name, causing the local constabulary to think he was a spy for the Russian government. After hours of investigation, the police eventually discovered that they were investigating the town drunk. Oh, and he also founded the coolest sounding political movement, Stranomy in Ahopa Krokuvi Mezij Zakona, the party for moderate progress within the limits of law.